Yeah. Come on. Come on. Yeah. Come on.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
That music is so freaking obnoxious.
No, it's great. Fuck you.
I love it, but
It's so
just,
Euro trash.
it definitely says, we're here.
It says we make bad judgment. That's what it says.
What? I did make a bad judgment streaming with you guys. I could have been winning with Eric July.
You just have to give up all talent and skills.
I just have to give up all functioning
Brain
thinking
cells.
skills.
Yeah.
I think as long as you were friends with him before all this, you could have been his warehouse manager, CEO, chief of operations. Apparently, it's just a nepotistic operation.
It doesn't seem very competently run. From what I've heard, I'm not on Twitter, but apparently that's where all of this lives.
It is where all of it lives. Yes. Well, lives on Twitter and on his live streams because, he's got to mention.
Yeah, but then I'd have to sit through an Eric July live stream.
God, I know.
Well, he cuts them down to 12-minute videos with 4 minutes of ads. So,
Yeah, but then I'd have to sit through 12-minute videos of Eric July. I could sit through the 4 minutes of ads probably just fine, but
there is a handy dandy little extension that if someone goes through and tags a video as portions of it being a shill, it'll skip that for you if you have the extension and go to watch it. Yeah, but someone has to tag it.
But is there an extension where it'll skip through the Eric July video?
Unfortunately, no. And I have had to watch way too many Eric July videos. in the last few weeks.
You haven't had to. You've chosen to.
Well, we've chosen
Well,
to talk about it, so
to be
I've
honest,
had
the last
to.
24 hours, I didn't choose to. They were kind of forced upon me. I
Yeah.
made a
I mean, you,
harmless. I made a harmless joke. Well, a harmless joke / criticism, and it triggered a very thin-skinned guy to show me videos of his, while wearing tank tops of like just random shit in his like garage like warehouse.
Yeah, can you guys tell me a little about that? Because it seems like from what I've seen, like any bit of like criticism uh just immediately interrupts this guy's whole like day and he has to respond. Could you tell me a little about that?
not just respond, but he's got to continue to respond.
And
And
he's got to do video performances in his responses. He can't just tweet. He has to respond via video.
yeah,
Well,
I think it's because, most of his supporters are probably too dense to actually
read.
Well,
read and comprehend. Their reading comprehension skills are pretty sad.
you
Their
can take
comprehension skills in general, I'm sure.
Yeah.
the Blaze contributor out of the studio. You can't take the studio out of the Blaze contributor. So that's all it is.
So I guess like what I don't understand about it is you would think that like somebody who just raised $3 million and it has
Three and
to
a
do
half.
has to do
3.3. It's in the advertisement.
all of this like fulfillment now. You would
He'd be
think
busy.
that they would just have better things to do than respond to Vicky of all people.
I know, right? Me.
And then also you.
Yeah, random person online. Because I
Like,
mean, it's not like like you and Vicky do this stream all the time, and you guys are kind of known in the comicsgate circuit and the independent comics. I don't do either of those, so to bring me into it, it's like okay, but it's something I've noticed about Eric July, that he'll do that to like someone like me or Vicky or you, but like let's say someone like bigger with a bigger platform, like a Kevin Smith or something like that, hits him, that dude gets quiet real fast.
Yeah, I mean it's
Yeah.
your typical larger platform that likes, and they all do it. Tug does it too, right? Ethan does it. Eric July does it.
Tug.
You go after I know. You go after and you respond. You quote tweet. You don't just respond. You have to quote tweet them.
Hmm.
So that all of your followers see them and all of your followers dogpile into their notifications.
Yeah, to the point
Right.
where the only way to get like a decent night's sleep is to private your account just for the few hours while you sleep, so that an idiot in Dallas can declare victory while you're sleeping.
Yes. What? Well, it's really weird because like I mean like we've riled people up before and like to the point where they respond and like but like by all means I'm not saying people shouldn't respond to criticisms or like well it's like coming from such a small voice like how like why are you even responding like no like
Sure.
if you feel the need to respond
Respond.
right but like
Right.
responding to literally any bit of like criticism in such a way that it can only be described as like extremely thin-skinned.
Oh, this is I just remembered this isn't the first time that I've triggered the thin skinnedness of like Eric July. I think he tweeted at Movie Bob, and he was like he basically said his criticism was invalid because Movie Bob is overweight, and that apparently somehow weight and like physique has anything to do with Movie Bob actually being a good movie critic or like critic of media. Um, and I posted some pictures of him on one of his streams with his very like ill-defined, like thin arms, and going like this physique, looking like Al Roker without a shirt on. And and that proceeded to
Yeah,
again,
he was not happy about the tiny baby arm tweets.
tiny baby arms. I started calling him noodle arms
Noodle
because he
arms,
kept coming
yeah.
at me, and I kept calling him noodle arms, and it triggered him to not just do a response video on Twitter where he like flexed. in the most pathetic flex you could possibly make. But then he had to go like to his legit studio and then actually do a video on YouTube to post for his
About how he
subscribers,
doesn't have noodle arms.
where he had to like flex on the video to show his amazing physique and definition.
I mean, he's like,
yeah,
he's
just
on
remembered.
camera. What's he like? He doesn't have the best physique. Like, it's just
Like,
a
yeah,
fact.
he's
Like,
not
don't
an
be
overweight
upset
dude,
about
but,
it. Like,
you know.
just do something about it or don't care. Like, I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, it's one of those things where if you're going to critique somebody's physique or say like their opinion is invalid because of their physique or their, you know, if they're in shape or not, then I think you can take the criticism in return if somebody goes, dude, you have like noodle arms and you know, your chest looks like a rotisserie chicken. Like, you know, and you're not exactly defined. So, you know, and if you can't take that, then it kind of undermines your original point to insult like somebody else, because it, you know, Bob never even responded back to him because it was such a pathetic little insult. I think he was just trying to get some clout that day. But it just goes to show you, like, Bob didn't respond to you because he thought it was dumb that, you know, you would undermine his criticism with physical like insults. But then when somebody does that to you, you had to go online and post 2 tweet videos and a YouTube stream just to flex your arms, hoping somebody would think you're strong.
Yeah, and he didn't forget that was you.
Yeah, and I
Just
think
like
that's
I've
I
been
think
making a
that's
bit
part
of
it.
noise. I think, you know, I've been making a bit of noise about the quote campaign. And so he kind of he didn't want to give up last night.
Well, I think
I
what
don't
surprised
think. Well, it doesn't. I'm not sure because it sounds like, and this is from an outside perspective, he just can't ever give up.
no,
I don't think he can.
He can only give up when he thinks that there's a valid way he can declare victory of some sort. So if you stop responding to him, he will just take that as, oh, I win. Or he'll just preemptively just do a tweet where he just responds to you, but then in the tweet says, I win because of XYZ. And then that's
That's
it.
the
If
thing
you're,
about winning. You shouldn't have to announce that you won. It should just be clear to the people around you.
I mean,
And
it's Twitter. So
is there
normally
any winning on Twitter or on the internet?
there
Really?
isn't. I
You
mean, the
know,
only time
That's
that
fair.
somebody legitimately wins is when the ratio gets so high that they get mocked into oblivion. And then all the other person can do is just be quiet and move on.
well,
There is
when you're
something else.
going after a smaller account, right? Like
Mhm.
how many Twitter followers does he have? Over 300K, I think. I mean,
Something
he's
like
got a
that.
shit ton of Twitter followers, and you only have like 500. Of course, you're going to
Not
get
even.
ratioed,
I got like
right?
200.
I've got like 600, maybe 600,
I always
maybe.
love how these kinds of people like always make fun of quote unquote like the left or SJWs for living on Twitter.
Mhm.
Meanwhile,
They're
like
living.
their little like brain dead cult following is all following them on Twitter.
It's all
And
Twitter.
all they can do is respond to every single tweet ever. Like they
Ye-
live on Twitter.
Well,
Oh,
what was
you've
amazing?
got. Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then what's worse is like some of the replies you get. Like I've never been called a racist on Twitter until I've started mixing it up with Eric July stands, right? Because there's nothing on my timeline. This gentleman streaming with us now wouldn't be on screen with us if I even came close.
No,
Like,
not at all.
right? We wouldn't
No.
know each other. And so you know, the stuff that you get from them is like with Tug, it was actual threats in my DMs from the Amber Heard stands. But with Eric July, it's declarations that I'm a racist somehow, which is so what they would call SJW.
Yeah, I
Well-
like how any bit of criticism of Eric July because he's a person of color is it's because you're racist. Meanwhile, like these people call out like, you know, Marvel or like Star Wars or anything else whenever they're like, "Hey, this this is racist. They're like, oh man, no, you're just calling it racist because we're criticizing you, and it's like literally the same exact thing, almost
Well-
like they're the exact SJWs that they cry about.
Well, like Eddie July, and I'm going to call him Eddie because I just don't respect him enough to actually say his regular name. But Eddie, he actually, yeah, he was part of the whole like fandom menace, like having a shit fit because of like Reva in Star Wars and calling her, tokenized and losing their shit because the Star Wars Twitter said, "Hey, if don't be racist." A very general statement, and I think most people could just agree, "Hey, don't be racist." Um, and if you took offense to that and went, "You called me racist," I think you kind of self-reported there, champ. I mean, that's kind of how that works. I mean, it's kind of like when somebody says "fuck Hitler," and your response is, "Hey, why are you insulting Hitler?" Kind of giving away that you're a bit of a racist there. Um, so they always play this game where they think people look at race the same way that they do, which is as some type of weapon or some type of thing to just use to invalidate all criticism and all like end an argument. So they go ahead but then they do it that way. They perpetuate it that way when they don't realize that if you get called a racist because Star Wars Twitter says, racism is not allowed in our fandom, and you have an objection to it, you're kind of giving away that you might be racist. So if you get called a racist, it's kind of valid. Whereas if you're just randomly criticizing the way a guy stuffs a bunch of like comics that are bagged and boarded in oversized totes, it's not really racism. That's just calling out shitty business behavior.
Yeah, okay, okay, so like my one thing is that like to them they like I think they perceive things a certain way, right? But then they like when they criticize Star Wars and then they're like uh they think that their criticisms are why they're being called racist, right? But then they go and pull that same tactic that they perceived, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing is that like when you're using the same tactics as like your opposition or how you perceive your opposition um in doing, right? Like you're kind of indistinguishable from the thing that you're criticizing. Like you
Right.
are exactly what you're crying about on
You're proving
YouTube.
how
Right.
hypocritical it is.
It's like
You are the
Yanzi.
SJW.
It
Like
was like Yanzi calling Mark
Yeah.
Brooks a racist because made a comment that she was like she was like a buzzing fly. She was insignificant, and somehow she says that's racist. And you're like, that's not racist. And she goes, well, that's how they talk. So it makes it okay. And you're like, no, it
well,
makes you
then you
no
are
better.
they.
You are them. You're no better than them.
You
Well,
have
and
now become them that you've cried about. Like it completely invalidates your criticisms, and you are what you've been criticizing.
and
Like
that
Exactly.
precisely that response from Yancey precisely and it basically shows what I was just talking about. She didn't do it because she validly thought she was that Mark was being racist to her. She used it as what she thinks people use, quote unquote, the race card as. So you're using it in the bad faith you say other people do, but you're doing it like there's no, even if you thought that that's what Mark did, you by tweeting that, you're admitting that you knew that it wasn't racist, but you said it anyways because you're trying to make this argument in bad faith.
yeah,
Yeah.
but and so like and I'll give them some credit. I think that that's how they perceive what like what happens to them, right? Like I think that they uh perceive when they get called racist that the person doesn't actually think it, they're just trying to label them as that, right? I actually do like
Right.
I like to be fair, but then they go
To be
ahead
fair,
and they
huh?
do that same exact thing knowingly. uh well, you are what you've cried about. Like there's it's
Yeah.
just you've completely invalidated your whole argument, and then you've made it so you can no longer complain about it validly. Like it just
You've
yeah.
invalidated by proving that it's not in good faith, and then you used it, which further proves how it's used in bad faith.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you've invalidated it twice, both
It's-
as
it's
something
like
to
John-
cry
it's
about
like-
and then as something to do.
Like
Mhm.
John Malin's ironic racism, right?
There's no such
It-
thing as ironic
I
racism.
know.
I'm sorry.
I
Like
know.
you're like when
But that's how he makes his little comments, and they say he's just being funny and ironic because they've called him a racist, so he plays into it by making racist comments, which makes absolutely no sense
that's
in
that's
on
like
any
that's like
timeline.
me that's like me calling Dean a Nazi and Dean going, "Fine, you're gonna call me a Nazi? I'm gonna buy this World War II memorabilia and put on an SS uniform and walk everywhere around. I'll show
Well-
you." Like,
Well,
no,
the
dude. you're-
the Palestinians
already
buy the
owned
most
one.
copies of Mein Kampf.
I already owned
Oh.
one. Okay. No,
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Yeah, well,
But like, yeah, no, you are right. Like that's the thing. Like the point of like a racist joke is it's like, yeah, it's edgy, but the point is it's racist.
the edgy is
like
because
that
it's
is,
racist, and because
and I mean it's in the
it's-
name. Like the joke is a racist joke. Like there is no
right.
like you could say that like I don't actually believe that, and like sure maybe you don't, right? But like it doesn't make it not racist.
It's also like, and if you know it's a racist joke and you're saying it anyways, you're kind of just going, I know that I'm gonna say something racist. I just don't care that I'm gonna be a racist. But be that as it may, let's say you're an actual like stand-up comedian and you're gonna say a joke that's a bit edgy like that. I think part of the being able to do it is the audience that you're doing it and the context that you're doing it.
Yeah.
You
That,
can't
yeah,
just
no,
randomly
actually, that's
put
a lot more fair than I feel like.
you can't just put a
yeah.
random racist joke into like the Twitter sphere and then pretend everyone in that can read it is just going to automatically assume that this is a stand-up comedy routine and you're not a racist. And let's use an example. So Geeks and Gamers, you can't be Ryan Cannell in Universal Studios Simpsons Land and point at a picture of the founder
That
of
statue,
the
yeah.
statue and say, "Oh, look, it's George Floyd," and then think that nobody's going to call you out as racist for it. Or you can't say in your Batman review that there were only 2 good white people, and then that's your problem because there weren't enough good white people. There were good people that were of color, but there weren't enough good white people. And keep specifying that they had to be good white people, and that was why you're taking points.
Yeah,
off
he has
your
a
score.
history of saying things like that.
So you're going to be called the racist, or when you Jeremy and you tweet pictures in a con with 2 people of color that are fans of you and go, "See, I got black friends." That's not funny, dude. Like you're basically like
No, I don't
using
think
them
that was a
as
joke.
a token.
I think that was his defense. Like I don't even think it was a joke.
But it's not a defense. You're legitimately
No,
taking
I
these
know
two
it's
fans
not.
of
But I'm
yours
saying
and-
like I think that was his defense. He's like, I'm not racist. Like, look, I took a
I mean, there's
picture
a
with a
reason
black
people
person.
there's a reason people joke and laugh about people saying, "I have a black friend," or "I have."
No, but that's literally what his defense was. That's.
But
I think he really
I find it funny.
Dean's saying he thinks he actually meant it and
Yes.
not as
That's
and not
but
as-
that's worse because it.
No, I know.
we know.
I mean, you're legitimate. And what's sadder is that the 2 guys that took the picture with him, because I'm assuming they're fans of his work, even though I don't know why, but they're fans of his work. And he legitimately just used them as like tokens and like didn't even say their names and say, "Hey, these great fans showed up to my table. Look at all my awesome fans, all of my fans." No, he just basically tokenized them to the most basic thing in his mind, which is that they were 2 black guys.
Yeah.
And I mean, but then if you get called a racist, it didn't come out of nowhere, and they're not doing that because of your Star Wars review, unless your only criticism of Star Wars is that there's a black character.
Yeah, okay, so that is one thing that like that really confused me when like that came out that the inhibitor or whatever, I don't care, I didn't watch the series. But when like it was going to be played by this black actress and people were like already outraged, and I'm like, guys, let her play the role like first, like watch an episode.
Can we at least wait to see
Self-reporting.
if it's any good? See if
Self-report.
see
This
if
is
she
what they
can
do.
act and maybe do a good job. Like, why do we have to be hung up on the race of?
And then people were
the
like, "Oh,
actress?
look at Star Wars. They're already being like, trying to excuse the bad episodes because racism." And it's like, well, yeah, but like they're legit. Like an episode hasn't even aired, and people are outraged that she's black. Like, what do you
How many
mean?
videos did Geeks and Gamers do before a single episode aired?
Oh, God, I don't even
How
pay
many
attention to them. Yeah.
She-Hulk right now is on. They've aired 2 episodes. They have thousands and hundreds of videos. Sorry, they probably have hundreds, not thousands, but they wouldn't surprise me they have thousands. But they have hundreds of videos in all the Geeks and Gamer channels, and even more if you count all that Rage and Sphere, completely losing their minds about She-Hulk before it even aired, before it even got to the character just barely got through what the actual plot of the story is going to be last week, and you're losing your mind.
And the ratings are good.
Oh, and then when you're Jeremy Griggs and you, for your thumbnail for your She-Hulk criticism, it's a picture of Beyonce dancing at an awkward moment, and you just painted it green. You're kind of you're playing this race thing because you're using the picture because it's Beyonce at an awkward moment where she made a face because she was mid dance move, but you painted her green for no reason. Like, what does Beyonce have to do with this? Nothing. You're just trying to make a race joke on top of, you're trying to make it racist on top of the fact that you're already losing your mind on something that, according to you would never watch it. Like, all these guys always cry about how they will never watch one of these shows, or they hate this or they hate that, and they're always the first ones to post about it and do reviews.
Yeah, if you don't like it, don't watch it. If the content's not made for you.
I want to point out this comment by Thomas, and then maybe we can get into some of the video clips. But Thomas says, it's also worth remembering that Eric July's fans flagged the shitty webcomics Twitter account until it got banned just for pointing out that Eric never made a comic before.
Gee, and I wonder why someone right before they go to bed and can't possibly respond in time would have privated their account just so A, they could get a good night's sleep, and B, so people couldn't just mass flag the account while they're sleeping. Oh, who knows? I don't know why anybody would do that.
I don't either.
All right. So I think we're watching the Totes video first, yeah?
Totes.
Yes.
Totes excited.
All right. Totesgate.
Totesgate.
That is a name.
I called it Totesmageddon.
It's not as simple as, hey, grab book, send it. It's a process. We want to make sure these books stay in high quality, just like we pay, in terms of the premium to get them.
What is going on? Like I said, like I was telling Vicky, I think this is actually the proper way to store comics, right? Because it's unfair. It's unfair that some people get like a mint condition comic where other people get like a slightly damaged comic. And
Right.
now nobody gets mint condition comics. Everybody gets damaged books, and so it's fair.
I
And I
mean,
think this is the future of indie comics.
I think it is
It-
as well.
it's very, very fair. I mean, everyone is equal. Everyone gets a damaged, warped, and bent comic. Oh my god! I'm not even a fan of his shtick. I'm not gonna buy his books because they're overpriced. And frankly, he's never written anything and he's never produced anything. Why would I buy something from a guy who basically the only thing that they have to prove that they are a good comics creator is an intro video about other companies, not themselves. So Brian Michael Bendis and you know and other creators, like, they had to build a reputation before people would buy their books. Like, I'm not buying your books just because you're some guy in YouTube and it's some type of like culture war bullshit. But seeing those books in those totes in that condition in the video, I still cringe because it's just, look at that. Look, I mean, he's yelling at me about how are they going to shift. Like, we have them in here, they're going to be perfectly fine. They're even more secure than the box. Bro, your own video shows them how they're all like shifted and overlapping each other and tossed all over. It shows how the tote is bigger than the actual, stacks of books that you have. And, you have Gabe El Taib and you have Eric July both going, well, they're bags and boards. Bro, bags and boards are not force fields. Like, a bag is a simple plastic bag to keep fingerprints off, and the board is the thinnest of cardboard just to keep the book straight. It will get warped. Like, you put them in
you
there,
stack them
they
like
will.
this. No, but
Yeah.
they're in plastic bags. But they're in
Yeah,
plastic
of course.
bags.
I think part of the real issue is this, no matter, by not stacking them and storing them properly, he's causing damage to those books,
Of course.
right? And people are paying. If I had ordered ISIM, it would have cost me $43 to get the book. That's a lot of freaking money. I think somebody on Twitter had said, well, if the book is damaged and you get it, you just ask for a refund. Well, I'm sorry.
Everybody.
This is a limited first run comic.
This
If that book is damaged, there's no replacing that book. And there's always the possibility that on the speculator market, on the secondary market, that book could actually be worth something down the line. Right. So is Eric, hypothetically, yeah, I said possibility.
Yeah.
So is Eric July going to compensate people for the money that they're going to lose on the secondary market? No.
Well,
This,
I mean, is it going to be worth anything on the secondary?
Who knows?
Where
really?
this picture came from and the video that he posted, these aren't just the regular books. These are the signed alternate cover limited edition books.
B cover, I think. Yeah.
The B cover. He sold these separately under a different SKU at a different price. They had a limited run. There were only so many printed, and he signed them. There's no way you're going to replace this. If this is damaged, you're not going to magically go back in time and do a first printing of a book that's already been printed. Any print after this will be a second printing. So already your replacement, it's already devalued from the jump.
I think the answer shifter, I think, is 3, right? There's A, B, and C.
Well, there are 3 covers. Yes.
Yeah, A, B, and C.
The A cover,
right, but
the B
let's say you
cover,
print,
the C cover. But they're all
B,
still,
the A and B are. I thought A and B were done. I thought it was just C now.
technically it's still a first run of each cover.
right?
Okay.
But let's say, okay, so the regular issue, the cheapest one that he has, he printed 60% of his books that way, and then the other B and C covers, he printed 20% of each, right? Because he wanted those covers to be special so he could sell them at a premium. So he printed them at a lesser amount as the regular issues. This
There were
is very common in comics. You will find the main cover. There's plenty of the main cover, but the alternate covers are very limited run. So the B and C cover are limited run. You sell them at a premium. But if you're damaging the limited run, when the customer gets this, and it's already, even if it comes, if the shipper, let's say FedEx delivers it perfectly, but it's already been warped because it's in a tote like this. There's nothing that can be done. Eric July can replace the book and send them a B cover on the second printing, or he can send them a C cover on the second printing, or he can send them an A cover that are just left over. But that's not what they paid for. They paid for a B cover that was the limited run and cost more. So even if you refund them the money, they lost what they intended to buy from the beginning, which is a limited run, limited cover thing that hypothetically in the future in a resale market would actually be more valuable because it's a limited run first printing. You know, you can people there's plenty of people that I have known who, you know, don't know about comics, but like, you know, in the 90s everyone bought comics, and I've gone to their houses and they had me look through a long box and they're like, hey, is this comic book valuable? And it's an issue of X-Men #1, the Jim Lee cover. And I tell them, no, look inside. It's like a fourth printing, and they printed that cover so many times, and you know, in the initial run, that even if you got the first printing, it's probably, chances are, not that valuable even then. It sold 1 million copies, and it's still like the best-selling book of all time as far as quantity is concerned. But your book is not valued more because it was X-Men #1 and it sold the most. You're still only have the fourth printing book. Even in near mint, is not worth anything.
Yeah,
So,
it's a lot like Yu-Gi-Oh cards for those of you who aren't fucking nerds.
well, even baseball cards. When you buy baseball cards, you store them in a container that will not allow the cards to shuffle into each other like this picture, or to have all this space for them to like rummage around, or you put them in a hard plastic like CGC graded comic books are, and you seal it forever so it can remain near mint, so they're valuable. Bags and boards is the minimum. What they have done here is the minimum that you do for a comic book. My local comic book shop, bags and boards for my comic books every time I buy it, because it's the minimum thing they can do. As soon as I put it in a tote like this and it gets all warped, it doesn't matter that it's got a bag and board. It's shit. It's not going to be worth anything. If I find out a decade from now that was the first appearance of some great character, and now that comic book's worth $300, my warped copy is going to be worth 2 cents. And this is what he's doing to his customers from the jump. And he's lying to them, and he thinks that they're too stupid to be able to look at this picture and go, my comic books have been shifted around. You're not keeping them in the best quality before you ship them to me.
Well, I'm sorry. I just have to interrupt. Distant says Yu-Gi-Oh was Magic TG for retards, Dean. First of all, motherfucker, Yu-Gi-Oh is the #1 card game around the world. Magic isn't even the #1 card game in America. Fuck you.
Oh my god.
Piece of shit. Your mother loved my blue eyes, white dragon, blam. Anyways, sorry, go on.
It's just and the insanity that he spent hours arguing. How are they going to shift? How are they going to move? They're packed in there tightly. They're packed in there better than the publisher would send them to me, because they're in plastic totes as opposed to cardboard boxes. And then you literally can watch this video and look at this picture and go, how the fuck is this better than the shipper sent it to you?
And not
Bags
only
and boards
that,
didn't magically make it better, dude.
And not only that, but once a book is bagged and boarded and taken out of the box that the printer sent it to you in, it should be stored vertically, not flat.
Correct.
They should be stored vertically. It puts less pressure on the bindings.
Yeah,
it makes
like
everything all
spine, right?
happy. Yeah.
That's
it doesn't
how most
matter.
professionals do it.
If you go into a comic book shop, they're stored vertically, except for the dollar bin, which looks like this picture here.
Yeah, this does look
Not
like
even.
a dollar bin.
And
my
sometimes not
local
even
comic book
that.
shop,
Right.
the dollar bin comics are in an old school spinner rack, just not bagged and boarded. You could just grab them as you will.
Yeah, but they should be stored vertically. And if you do store them horizontally, you can do it. They just have to be in neat stacks. Each book has to be, the bindings have to face the opposite way. So the front covers are against each other, and the back covers are against each other. So
Right.
that
You
you
have to
go
make them into
right
thick.
binding, left binding, right binding, left binding, so that the bindings aren't putting pressure. And because that's
Right.
where most of the pressure happens and most of the destruction of the binding. That's how it gets fucked up, right?
Basically, you
So,
have to pack them so tightly that they become one dense whole,
and
and
you can
then you
only,
can send them.
yeah, and you can only stack them so high.
Well, that's why when the
Even
shipper
if you
sends
do
them to
it,
'em,
yeah.
they're in boxes stacked densely with no room to move. And basically, when the box is sealed, it's just one giant cardboard covered, brick basically of paper.
Yeah.
It's the same thing as when you buy like a box of printer paper and it's got all these reams in it and it's heavy as hell. When you open the box, there's no room in there for the reams to shift around, and they're wrapped in individual stacks. So again, so they don't shift around. Now take all those reams of paper and undo the wrapping, and then throw them in one of these totes, but put them in a nice stack, and then shift them around to move them to workstations or move them to a shelf. That was the other thing. We don't move these books. Once they're in here, we don't move them. Well, first you moved them like 8 times during the video alone, and we're shuffling them like a deck of cards. But later on, you started telling in one of your other videos, you're like, well, we only move them when we put them in the shelf or bring them down. We move them about 3 or 4 feet, maybe to a
About 5
workstation to
feet,
work
5 feet
about
to the
5 feet
workstation.
to a workstation and back again. I'm like, do you think the comic books just stay perfectly centered inside the oversized totes when you move them back and forth and they don't shift at all?
No,
Like
they bash up against each other.
they're gonna shift. The only way that there's okay, and I'm gonna give him some advice here, and I'm gonna answer his.
I don't think
I'm gonna.
he's gonna listen to it.
We're
I
still
don't
gonna
think so
do
either.
it.
But I'm gonna solve his issue where if he wanted to use those totes, he could for the storage of the comic books until he ships them. You take the comic books, you stack them in neat, stacks. I mean, if you want to stack them horizontally, fine. It's your business. I don't give a shit. But I would stack them vertically. But you don't want to buy the hard plastic comic book long boxes, even though you know that that's what you should use because you showed it in one of your videos. But you're gonna stack them horizontally in a nice, neat stacks, really close to each other. Let's say you can get 4 stacks in the tote. And then what you're going to do is you're going to surround those stacks with as much paper, bubble wrap, anything that will basically keep that stack in the middle from ever shifting around or moving or anything during any other transportation or any movement of that tote. And then your comic books, for the most part, shouldn't shift to each other. They still could, but you're reducing a lot of what the video and these
Cheap
pictures that we just
newsprint.
saw
You also
would do.
want to make sure that if they're going to be slamming up against the sides of the tote, which are not smooth, by the way, they're
No.
grooved, which also can further bend them, especially with all that weight on top of them. So you want to make sure if you are doing that, and it's not not something anybody would actually recommend, that everything is padded along the sides and padded between the books, even if you're just using cheap newsprint, just something, right?
Yeah. To his hangar manager friend. When I worked in a warehouse and we had to work on things that were very expensive yet very fragile, you would make sure you would create these foam bags that would basically be clear, and you would fill it out with shaped foam that as soon as you put the part, it would shape to the part so it would never move. And then you would put another bag of this foam on top. Now you can't do this with books because obviously if this foam leaks, it would damage all the books. But in essence, this is what you do. You pack everything on the sides to keep it from ever shifting or moving in any way. So basically, if you were to somehow magically take the comic books out of the center of the box, the stacks, and leave it, the surrounding area would basically look like a giant donut with the center being a perfect square that only fits the stack of books. You would know this if you were a professional hangar manager and you had worked in logistics before. But since you didn't, and the only reason you have this job is because you're Eric July's friend, which is obvious from your picture and your Twitter banner, which is just you guys at a wedding. So that's basically why you got the job, because you're his friend. And hey, more power to you. You're his friend. He wants to break you a piece of the profits. No problem. But if you're going to act like a professional, you might as well Google at least how to do the work and actually be a professional, not just come inside and just pretend to do so for a cheap check.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you've seen videos of inside the warehouse, Dean, right? I mean, he's talking about how he's running out of space, but there's a lot of empty space and misused space.
Yeah, I mean, part because like I've managed a warehouse. I work in a warehouse. It's really easy. Well, I'll give them like some leeway. It's really easy to mismanage space in a warehouse.
Yes.
But it's also really easy to find space after you've mismanaged.
Yes.
But it's hard work.
Yes.
And I think that's the part that's gonna kill them.
Well,
like, to be fair, it's just two people. Now that's not like giving them leeway.
Three if you count his wife.
Three, but like that's just because for some reason they're not actually hiring the amount of people they're gonna need to take on a project this big.
It seems if you have $3.3 million in profit, you would hire people to get the job done. Especially if, according to you, you bought all the product ahead of time. So you're not like other crowd funds, or you're not like other people who actually have to like get the product first and then hire. Like, you've got all the product. Now it's just a matter of like getting them bagged up, ready. At this point, when he said he was going to be shipping in late August, early September originally, they should have already been in mailers ready to go.
When
honestly,
he
as
also
soon as he
said,
had the product, he should have started. As soon as he had the product and he had already, sold what he needed to sell, he should have started shipping them out.
As soon as he had it, yes.
Yeah,
that would have really helped his PayPal issue.
The posters have to go out separately anyway. He's obviously not packaging the t-shirts with the books. So all of that stuff has to be shipped separate anyway. So he might as well have gotten a head start on at least getting the posters out and clearing up a lot of space that's taken up by the poster tubes that he put on shelves 3 high. But he also is talking about how he wants to get 2,000 to 3,000 into the mail every day. So let's go with 2,000, right?
Right.
In order to mail 2,000 books with a 10-hour window of business, right?
Mm-hmm.
They would have to be packing up, printing a label, and getting it ready to go out the door, 1 order for every 3 minutes.
I'm gonna interrupt. Somebody, it was Vicky, I think, mentioned posters. So we're gonna watch a video.
Let's.
Oh yeah, I like those K-pop. Oh yeah. If I didn't have an issue, we always get
So you on that side?
Huh? Yeah,
So you got the access app and all that shit?
got the X-Slide,
He's got such puny arms, he had trouble taking off the lid.
This was in response to a troll by me and Stu about his posters. Stupendous.
Yeah.
And or Soy Rage, as some know him. And Stu was like, I know those poster tubes are empty. And we're like, yeah, they're empty, right? And so he did his little performative video. And you know what? I got the feeling like when he did it, because he was pissed. You could tell he was pissed, right?
Yeah,
just by the way he's handling these things, right? Mm-hmm. That I got the feeling, and it felt like to me, and I'm not actually accusing him, but this is what felt like, that he just put posters in those 2 tubes just to make a fucking point, right? I mean, that's what it felt like when it
because he's
popped
got a
up on
stack of
Twitter.
posters just sitting exposed.
But all
the video
these
begins
all
by him
these
showing
tubes
a stack of posters.
The posters, but And here's a couple of problems with the posters, right? Those posters should be in bags inside the tubes. This
Correct.
keeps the posters from rubbing against the cardboard. It helps keeps the ends safer. And as a matter of fact, there should be like a liner on top of the poster, like a cheap newsprint, the size of the poster, that is rolled up inside of it so that the the inked side of the poster isn't scraped and scratched by the rest of the poster. I know
Or
this all sounds really complicated, right? But
or
this is
affected by
like
the heat and humidity, when
air,
it's
heat, and
wrapped in
humidity.
plastic.
Right. Then you put them in a plastic bag, you put them inside the mailer. Preferably, you have some sort of cushioning at either side of the mailer so that there's cushioning at the bottom when the poster goes in, there's cushioning at the top so that it doesn't get all the edges don't get all jacked up during shipping.
Mhm.
Instead, what Eric July does is he pulls this poster out. He bends the ends of the poster, puts the poster almost all the way into the container, and then tries to jam the lid on over the poster, taking complete and total care to make sure that it's not damaged.
Yeah, that
Well, I
poster.
love
That last
that
bit
po-
was sarcasm right there.
Yeah,
So
that last poster is all kinds of bent and all kinds of jacked up in the edges. Oh, and not to mention that in this video, he's touching all these posters barehanded. So
which is yeah,
he's getting his finger oils all over the product, which,
yeah.
when you're
Which is
working in
part of the
publishing,
reason.
this is like a no-no. When you're working on something like that, anything that could be affected by the oils in your hands, you wear goddamn gloves. Not a single one in this video.
Well,
Yeah.
what I love though is that like he keeps getting triggered into doing these like ridiculous videos to like own, and then like it always just shows his complete ineptitude. Uh and
Precisely.
it's really really funny.
It's like,
Yeah.
I'm gonna show you by doing this video where I show how incompetent I am. It's
Yeah.
like,
It's great fun.
I mean,
Yeah,
why are you finger fucking these posters, dude?
that's a
Why?
good
You
question.
know, and the funny thing is in the video that we played before, where the compilation. First of all, I don't even know how his setup is, because that looks like it's the warehouse where the things are printed, because there's other times where the warehouse just looks like a converted garage in his house. And
I think
one of
that's
the
a separate room, like in the warehouse space. It looks like part of it may have been remodeled somewhere along the
I
way,
guess you
because
see a
that
window and it
space
looks like there's home decor in the window. Um,
that space I think is actually like
This
what used to be part of it looks like to me like
like
what it
a
used to be
dock.
maybe part of a loading bay that was
Gotcha.
converted into an office space. So
But he's sitting
uh,
there. He's sitting there in the vid. First of all, it's hilarious that he posts a 12-second high-speed video of him working real hard, signing these books. And even in high speed, he signs like 7 books and takes a small Twitter break in between. And then he's signing the books, and the table is full of books. And he takes one of the books and puts it right on his knee
well,
and
the
uses his knee
spoilers,
as a table.
spoilers. We're
We
actually about
just
to watch
saw
that
it.
video. No, we watched posters.
yeah, we
Oh,
can watch the high
well,
speed video again.
this was in the
It was
there
in
it
the
is.
it was in the compilation.
No, but did you see it? He just
Yeah.
stopped everything he's doing to post on Twitter. He just had to.
It's pretty
And then
funny.
towards the end, he uses his knee as a table because he's run out of space. Because I'm assuming that's his wife that's doing the bagging and
Yeah.
boarding on the
Yes, it's
side.
his wife. Mhm.
But he's run out of space. So rather than maybe stack the books neatly, he has to have them splayed out like that so he could show off how many they are. Even though, again, you sign
I
like
think
6
yeah,
books
I mean
in
you do
12.
have to leave them splayed just for the ink to dry because you don't want to stack them on
That's
top of
true.
each other right away.
That's true.
But
There it is.
break.
I'm sure at that
Right.
point. I'm sure at that point he was letting me know that his arms are not
I
noodles.
gotta fucking tell these people how much I'm winning, or they won't know.
We
Yeah.
will win. And then towards the
Right.
end, there
But
it is.
Yeah, I took a
Yeah,
screenshot.
because when professional comic book creators sign their books, when I go to a con, I know that the comic creators take the book off the table, then put it on their knee, and then they sign it bent over their knee, and then hand it back to me because that's how real comic pros do it.
What's funny is like, so clearly he
But
does
we
know
bullied
about
him. But
wearing.
apparently, because we told him he was finger fucking the posters, we bullied him into wearing gloves though. So small improvement.
Yeah,
Small
this
improvement.
is a small win for Eric July actually, but it's because I guess for the I don't know, fans. I don't know. It's a win. It's a win somewhere.
It's a win. The books got rubbed over all over Eric July's thigh. So
Yeah.
some of you
They
will be
didn't get
getting
greasy
the
fingerprints, but they did get love from his gross
I mean,
thighs.
considering how much some of these boys were sycophanting over him, I wouldn't be surprised if they're gonna smell it to see if it, they can sense the body oils on
Oh,
the
yeah.
books.
That's
That's
Eric
kinda-
July scent.
that's
I
gruesome.
recognize it from my dreams.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think one of them, a couple of them, for some reason, their response just randomly text me, "Why so salty?" And my response is like, "I think you're just tasting the aftertaste of you licking his balls."
Some of them are pretty bad. I
Just-
had, yeah, I actually had some of them arguing with me that he was not marketing his books as being better than mainstream comics because he never actually, I guess, never used the word better than, but he does
It took
nothing
the
but,
trailer for
He-
like the
in
book.
the trailer, it
yeah,
shows
he
it.
says we're different. They suck, but we're different. What the fuck do you think that means, people?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he's literally displaying like he says he lists and like this isn't a bad trailer either. Like it's a good idea, like the concept of it. I think I'm not saying I agree with what he says. I don't care either way.
I
But
mean,
the trailer actually is like a good way of marketing, right? And like what it was this is what I have issues with. This is what makes them not good. This is what we're gonna do, and it's not that. Right? Like that's not
Right.
in itself a bad concept to market,
in
right?
theory,
Like that's a good.
yeah.
Right.
The thing
No,
is,
I'm not
it-
criticizing that trailer at all. I mean,
I think the trailer
for what
focused
it's
too.
trying to get along, for what he's trying to get across, it definitely got what he's all about.
I mean,
in
I
the
think
trailer.
for me, the trailer was more like buy my book to in some type of like symbolic way of showing the big two or the big publishers that you're fed up with the way they do business. And then like, but you didn't actually like tell me, okay, this is the book, these are the characters, and it's going to be an interesting story about this guy, blah blah blah, like just a short like like a pitch. Nothing.
Yeah, it was
Nothing.
just, this is Isom.
It was just buy my. We are selling
Well,
books.
I think it was initially more of a trailer just for the entire rip of verse, right?
Again, but I mean, to me, doing a trailer for it's such a shitty name, but doing a trailer for
It is.
a company before you release the first book, I mean, that's the hubris of like Universal releasing that picture for the Dark Universe before the Mummy came out, and then it took such a shit that it destroyed their entire marketing of this Dark Universe.
Yeah.
Like you're putting the cart before the horse. Like you should print some books under your imprint, and if they're successful, then you create a universe. Marvel Comics didn't begin by releasing all their characters in one shot when they were Timely Comics and when they became Marvel Comics. Neither did DC. Neither did Image. Neither did any of these companies. So for you to just come from the jump and say, "This is our company," and then we're gonna do that. It's like Warner Brothers and DC Comics, like the movie window, the movie arm, telling us they're gonna have this connected universe before they've even done the first movie.
Right.
Like, it's kind of hubris if you think you're just gonna like walk right into a connected universe without doing the work.
Yeah.
And I'm not dissing his marketing strategy.
No, I
I
said,
am.
it's not bad. Like it's a good way to market. I straight up said that from the start.
I think my problem with it is the original trailer was just less about what you're selling and more about bitching about other people. And then everything subsequently has been, we don't do any marketing. Well, of course, because every time you do a video on She-Hulk or the one of the Spider-Verse characters, and it's a video that's supposed to be about you criticizing this thing, you start the video by doing a 2-minute commercial about your book. Halfway through the video, you interrupt yourself to show your book, and then at the end of it, you put another trailer about your book. So a 12-minute video has like 5 minutes of you selling your book. You're using the people who clicked on the video that are like your fans, or that are people who have a problem with She-Hulk or whatever the case. They clicked on to watch you bitch and moan about She-Hulk. They didn't click to watch an ISOM commercial. If you wanted to advertise ISOM in your channel, you could do an entire video of just ISOM in the Rippaverse. But note that he won't do that, because if he did that, it'd be the lowest viewed video on his channel.
Yeah.
Mayhaps.
Well, I mean, but like, I mean, I get what you're saying, and like, it's not that I disagree,
It's
but
kind of a
also,
bait and
like,
switch.
you're kind of stupid for watching Eric July videos to begin
Well, that's
with.
true.
Like, like that's my
Yeah.
criticism. Like, just
I
don't
mean,
watch.
I actually don't have too big of a problem with using the videos to shill. I do think that, anything over 30 seconds of shilling in a video, one of your commentary videos, personally, is just too much. Ethan does the same thing. Ethan literally shills like every 30 minutes when he does a
Yeah.
live stream.
Yeah, but I mean,
Right.
it is their platform, so like, I mean, do what you want.
Yeah,
I
do
mean,
what you're gonna do. I don't watch.
care. I think your content shit, anyways, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't watch his content.
so like,
That's
whatever.
true.
Like, do
But
your
but
shit content and do your shit commercial. I don't.
But
care.
then don't tell me that you don't advertise. That this is all
Oh, yeah.
because your books are so great and you don't do any
And
advertising.
you're not using the
No.
negativity of your
Yeah,
commentary.
you're not using,
Yeah.
and
to
that you're
sell
not
your
using
book.
right. And that, I think
No.
that's the criticism that he had from what was it, Actual Fandom, was that he did an entire video calling them out for basically doing that. Like, you're using the negativity and the toxicity of your videos to bring the eyeballs, so then you could show your book. Like,
Yeah.
Well, that negative sort of thing really works. It's obviously worked for Ethan.
Well,
It's
the
working for Ripa. It works in politics.
The
I
one
mean,
thing
like,
that I'll say about it is that, like, yeah, the marketing, I do think it's a good way to market, but I will say that it 100% isn't marketing off the merits of your work.
correct. And
And
that's
that
was
is like,
criticized.
and like, I think that you are kind of just tricking dumb people. But at the same time, like, if that's something you're not concerned about, like, then
And
you're
I don't
not.
think he
Like,
is.
I don't,
He's looking at $3.3 million, and
you know,
that's really
like,
what
yeah,
matters.
like, you know,
He
it's
doesn't
all,
care.
it's all like, it's just dependent on, I guess, your goals and your morality.
Well, it's the same thing
So-
when Ethan gets called out for it, where it's like, you never talk about the actual merits. You never sell on the merits of your book, and you never talk about it. Anytime that your fans want to talk about your Cyberfrog, it's all about how much money it made, or how many commas you might have had, or zeros, or whatever. They never talk about how great Heather Swaim is, or Cyberfrog is this awesome character because of XYZ. No, it's just how much money you made, because they really don't give a shit about the comic books. And it's the same thing with Eric July. He, even in one of the videos where he's talking, where again or maybe it all blended into one. Maybe it was one of the tweets. He said that the reason he bought these totes, as opposed to the vertical long boxes that would have actually given him more room and everything, but the reason he bought the totes, because they would be more utilitarian for him to use them for other things. He can use them later for shirts, and he can use them for posters. And my response is, if you're a comic book business, if you're a comic book mogul, then your primary thing should be the comic books. If you're buying something that will just work great for your posters and your t-shirts, but you deep down, everyone's told you it's not great for your comic books, then you're kind of giving away how little you give a shit about the core piece of your business, which is the comic books.
Yeah.
The comic books
Yeah.
are force fidgety.
So,
on it.
during during M3's exchange with Eric July, Eric July had said, bent creases, you dumb motherfucker. That's the bag unsealed. Again, why are my detractors so fucking stupid? And what he was actually discussing was just putting them in the totes the way that they were was going to bend them, crease them, and fuck the books up. And
Like anybody with like any like sense would know, like
No.
would just come to that realization. Like
right.
I
And
don't
so-
understand. Like who are you calling stupid? Like look at how they're stored. Like I
Look
think
at the
like
pictures. I legitimately included pictures. Your books are overlapping. They're shuffled together like playing cards. They're not. They don't look neat even in the pictures that are from your video. I didn't go buy a stack of Some comic books, buy a Home Depot tote, and then pose for these pictures. These are your pictures based on your video. You
this guy
showed this
needs
to me.
like the Gordon Ramsay of like warehouses to show up and just yell
Warehouse
at
nightmares.
him.
and
Yeah,
so he's
warehouse nightmares. Look at the fucking storage.
No!
Look at the stacks. You know, like
and
You
he says,
you bought Home Depot totes. You idiot! You buy
fucking idiot.
fresh comic book boxes.
So bags and boards aren't force fields, you idiotic fuck bonnet. I love that, by the way. They are the minimum protection for comic books. Anyone who's owned comics knows this. Anyone who's ever put comics in a similar tote and seen them end up bent, creased knows this. You fucking pop culture ass clown. Eric July responds with, how are they going to end up bent, creased, being stored as such? Do explain the science. So
like gravity, like
gravity. Yeah, so I did explain the science.
gravity.
The weight of the comics on the top of the stack compress the books on the bottom, putting pressure on the stapled side, causing creases at the binding edge. If you must store them flat, they should be in neat stacks with every other book upside down so the binding is opposite.
Well,
And
it's
this
not just the bottom, right? Like when they're uneven, like
yeah, it'll
like
cause
the pressure like
warping.
going down, the gravity, like they bend and create. Like
And-
that's just
It's
And
just
then-
common
like-
sense.
This got me a video response, by the way.
Of course, everything gets a video response with Eric July.
yeah. Let's watch.
I think it's
I gotcha. Yeah, there it is.
Oh, there she is. Thought you got rid of Vicky.
Vicky, you poor little retard, you. This, by the way, is not stapled. It's actually sewn in terms of how our binding is. But more importantly, I don't know how you think books are sent when they're shipped in mass, like by the tens of thousands, but they're not sent in long boxes. In fact, they're sent in boxes that look just like this, and they're stacked on top of each other. Ours had boxes that were on the upward of 40 pounds each, and they're all stacked on top of each other, about my height, around 6
That's
feet.
bullshit.
And they're sitting on a pallet when they're sent. They don't come in long boxes.
yes.
It doesn't
I
matter
never
if they're stapled or not.
said they were shipped in long boxes. How they were
No,
shipped
he's responding to two things. He's responding. First of all, he only focused on the stapling part of your
right.
answer. Okay, fine. They're glued and have binding. The point of the spine
That
is
part
still
doesn't
the point
actually
of the spine.
matter to the damage that's
But
going to happen when you store them retardedly.
The long
like-
boxes
Exactly.
was the original criticism where I said once you bag them, board them, you should be putting them in long boxes that are actually heavy duty plastic storage boxes, so they have no room to shift or move. And then when you pack them in there with the long box completely full, they don't have room to move back or forth, and the box is only shaped to the width of the books, so they're not going to move from side to side. And these long boxes, you can, they're designed so that you can buy them and stack them on top of each other, and you're actually stacking plastic on plastic. You're not stacking comics on comics, so you're not actually putting the pressure on the books. You're putting the pressure on the case of the long box.
Yeah,
But
it's
again,
not
he
like
doesn't want to hear that.
But my
well, so wait. It's just funny because it's like, okay, so she said stapled. So what? Oh, it's actually bounded. Like, oh, big whoop. That doesn't take away from like-
when I
like so
Well,
what?
this is-
when I
This
quote
is Eric
tweeted
July
him,
for you.
yeah,
He
when I
takes one part of your tweet or one part of your answer, and then he
It
makes
doesn't
that
actually
makes that
cover
the
the
entire
topic of like incompetent like storage,
Yeah. When I quote
which is the
tweeted this,
point.
I pointed out that that the fact that they weren't stapled and they were square bound is even more egregious because he's destroying the glue bonds in the book, in the bindings there with that extra weight. And sure, based on the video,
Oh,
he
Uno
shows.
reverse on the R word, it sounds like.
I
Sorry, Larry
know.
Romano. Somebody do a suicide watch on Larry Romano.
Yeah, and so what happens is they were sent in boxes of 60. They're actually mini boxes, 2 mini boxes to a box. Each box
they're in
has
this
60
video. You can
books
see
in
the
it.
mini
You can
boxes.
see them, you can see the boxes in the book in this video, right? But when he says they were stacked as tall as I am, which is 6 feet tall, he's a manlet, by the way. They were actually probably only stacked 4 boxes high because anything on the pallets themselves, because anything else above that puts too much weight, especially if they're 40-pound boxes, puts too much weight on the bottom boxes and will ruin the books at the bottom of that stack. When printers package these things, they are packaged in such a way. I mean, it's all calculated. The weights are calculated out, the weights of the books, the weights of the cardboard, the weights of everything. They have figured all this shit out. And that is why the boxes don't get stacked more than 4 high. And why you have tight little boxes inside another box, right? But once you take that book out of that tight little box and throw it somewhere where it's going to shift, you're just fucking up.
Yeah, what I really enjoy, I'm sorry, I gotta point this out.
Yeah.
I really enjoy this comment. Your focus is on the wrong thing. When it's like, no, the focus was on like the really dumb fucking storage decisions. And like, meanwhile, he wants to focus on, she said stapled and it's actually bound. It's like,
But
yeah,
here's the thing.
totally
Anybody who's ever
focused on
owned
the
Here's the
wrong
thing. From
thing.
what I've seen in the videos, his art books, which have been in totes for almost a month now, are stapled.
Correct.
They're not big square. They don't look like they are big square bound books. They look like they just look like floppies that look stapled. I could
Besides-
be wrong, but until Eric July does a performative response
Regardless
video
on if
and
something's
shows me,
stapled-
I am not going to know for sure.
Regardless
Right.
on if something's stapled or not. Oh, like the humanity. It doesn't take away from like the damage that's obviously going to be done. Like if it, like who would like how did he look at that and think, oh yeah, they're in plastic sleeves, so like they're good.
He and his fans are like, this is how you can tell they're pop culture tourists, because anyone who's actually owned a trade paperback book that's glued and binded, when it's not actually handled properly, you know what happens to that book? Somewhere when you're flipping through that book, one of the pages just randomly falls off because the binding doesn't hold and the glue doesn't hold. It just falls apart. And that's what's going to happen to these books probably sooner rather than later. And, the thing about that also is weren't stacked 6 foot high. You know why? Because most warehouses don't put their warehouse shelving with pallets 6 feet high. It is fucking dangerous to use a forklift and lift giant heavy loads that are 6 foot tall and put them in shelves that are 6 foot tall, 40 pounds each box, blah, 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 and then put them on a high shelf to stack them before they ship it to them, which they would have had to do. That's not realistic.
I mean, if you're
anybody who's worked in a warehouse and knows about a forklift and fulcrums and weights and all this, which I have, can tell you this. But again, these are amateurs pretending to be big boys.
Shifter, they're lucky if they'll grade 5, bro. Like, that's the point. It's not, of course, nobody's gonna get a 10. They'll be lucky to grade 5, bro.
Yeah, none of these are getting are going to be graded well.
If one of his fans takes his book immediately from Magnum Board, send it to CGC and get graded, it's not getting a 10. Not
Right,
at
it's-
all.
it's-
No,
Not
but
even
like
getting
of course,
close.
like of course, it's not getting.
It's
a
not
10,
getting a
but, like,
9.
it's not
It's not
getting a
getting a
9. It's
9.
probably not getting an 8. I'd focus. Like I'd say
I'd
probably. I
venture
mean, I was
7
being.
or 6.
I was exaggerating, but yeah, I'd say probably 6 or 5. Like
Yeah.
5 if it's one of the ones he like shuffled around in the video.
that's all of them though. Like they're all
That's
being
like all of
shuffled
them.
like that, bro.
I mean, he
Well,
said
maybe
that they're not moving more than a few feet, but they had to go from that table where that his wife was putting the signed books in, from to a whole nother room into the shelving.
Well,
right.
no, that's before.
So-
Well, that's before the totes because he's taking them directly.
No,
from-
no,
you
no.
can see
She
them-
signs it. She signs it and puts it directly into a tote. As soon as she bags
yeah.
and boards the book and then puts it in a tote.
Yeah, but he's taking them from the box from the shipper.
Right.
That's the
Thank
right
you.
way.
The right
signing
way.
them, bagging and boarding them, and then storing them the wrong way. Maybe the
Storing
last
'em
the
just
last book that
completely
he ever signs and
incompetently.
puts in a tote will be the best graded book because it'll be the one that was spent the least amount of time in Eric July's hands.
Yeah. And so M3 tweets back in reply to Eric July, holy shit, you think the most efficient way to store care for comics is horizontally lying in Home Depot totes? Listen, it's clear we both know you don't know shit about this, but for your customers' fans' sake, shut the fuck up and quit while you're behind in this conversation. Jesus fucking Christ. And apparently this was enough
To
to
trigger a
trigger
new video.
yet another
Another one.
response video.
Let's do it.
Finally, I have some of the dumbest detractors and concern trollers. They're not actually customers of Rippaverse Comics. In fact, they hate you for being a customer, which is why they're so quick.
Oh, no, I don't. Wait. I don't hate them for being a customer. I hate them for being extremely dumb. I
Well,
don't
after
like
this, I
extremely
want you to
dumb
go back.
people.
After this video, go back to the tweet I just tweeted and tell me when I even insulted his fans. I even said, for the sake of your fans, just shut the fuck up and quit while you're
Nobody
behind.
nobody insulted.
Like I'm
his
literally
fans
telling you
ever.
to be. I'm literally telling you to stop showing to your fans how little you know because you're exposing yourself.
No, I think he's right though, because like I do hate them, just not for the reason he says.
I
I
don't
don't-
see. That's the thing is like I
I'm
don't
just
hate
joking,
them.
obviously.
I actually
I-
feel no way about them whatsoever.
That's even worse.
Some of the the ones that call me racist are a bit irritating, but I
The
don't
ones that came to my
care.
mention, I legitimately despise, but it's only because they were
And
harassing
there were
me in my
yeah.
mentions, not really because of anything else. I don't
I
give
mean,
a shit. If you want to buy
Yeah.
expensive comic books that get treated like jack shit by a James, broke ass James Harden looking motherfucker, that's fine. But that's not,
Yeah, I
that's
used
not my
to-
business.
I would hear that from Ethan too.
Darn it, Larry!
Yeah.
I wanted to hate you. I was prepared to hate you. No, I'm joking.
Damn,
look-
can't we hate him anyway?
We'll just pretend he did buy the book, so we
Yeah,
can
Yeah.
so
You
nobody
did buy the
ever-
book, you simp motherfucker. No, I'm joking.
Nobody's
watch the
ever
video.
said anything about his customers or said anything disparaging about
to-
people buying his book.
I
mean,
did.
only when I'm legitimately replying back to one of his fans that's harassing me, I basically call them simps or pay pigs. But again, it's because I'm responding to you coming to my mention, or basically telling you this is how little you care about them. You care about them so little that you're willing to sit here lying and making these videos and performances so that you can trick them into staying with you and paying overpriced for shitty ass quality. But I don't go out of my way to go harass Rippaverse guys. I don't give a shit, to be honest. And even in the original thread, I posted a joke about Home Depot. I mean, it was an advertisement from Home Depot because it happened to be the same storage totes that were on sale and on discounts. And it was saying, buy the totes for your holiday decorations to put them away. Like, it was literally a joke. Like, these are the cheapest shit possible. And, that you could put away your holiday decorations or your super valuable comic books because, you're a wannabe mogul. That's it. And I didn't even tag him. And then he just magically showed up.
Yeah. I just want to point out that this is like on the same level of like R-word logic. Literally anybody can be sued. It's why Ethan is also a part of a lawsuit. Like, the same
right now, currently
lawsuit?
in New
Like,
Jersey.
and like he was too dumb
He's in
to
2
actually
lawsuits.
realize that.
Yeah, he's in 2 lawsuits.
How did
So,
Vic Mignogna's lawsuit go? Did
Oh,
anybody hear
you'll
what
have to
happened
watch.
to that?
Yeah, you'll have
recently?
to watch our stream.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
lawsuits always go so well when people just
Yeah.
sue people for no apparent reason other than spite.
Yeah. So it's
Anyways, let's keep watching.
And
these
Sochi, they're
things
just
from-
weirdos who are upset, and they don't like the fact that we're seeing success. They don't like who like us, so they are fishing for things and gotchas to try to delegitimize what it is that we're doing. But we can always use them. We can monetize them, but we can certainly use them to update you guys, give you some insight. That's what this video serves as, on why we do what it is that we're doing. And it's really a lot of economic. I've learned that stuff very quick, and logistical stuff that you have to keep into consideration when you are not only running your own business, but you're handling your own shipping and stuff like that. So this right here, this warehouse that we're in, is only a temporary thing. We outgrew this almost immediately. So we have to take advantage of the space it is that we have, the verticality it is that we have, and totes have a lot of flexibility. These totes right here, you can get from a Uline or wherever you get your shipping stuff, and they can get
Home
there
Depot.
immediately. We put everything in these, and the whole idea is that they can go on the shelf. They fit perfectly, again, not on a pallet rack system, but on the actual shelves. They fit perfectly on there. And when we're doing our fulfillment in the middle of the warehouse, we can have 10 people or so doing whatever they need, but they can grab a tote, they can put it next to their workstation, their work table, and get to work. And because we have that flexibility, these can be used for virtually anything. We can do that. Now, the crack smoker is like, well, you should be using these right here, which the idiot tried to link it to me as if we don't have these. You don't need to be a comic collector, you idiot, to understand what a long or a short box is, especially a plastic one. But that is a very inefficient use of our space, because again, we can't use those.
It's just too inefficient for the space. So I'd rather make sure that the books get damaged.
Here, you know what?
Because it's efficient to the space, motherfucker.
First of all,
you're a fucking crack smoker, M3. You're fucking
crack smoker.
Dean calling me a crack smoker is irony of irony. But the one he showed, yes, that would be a waste of money because it's a short plastic short box. You don't buy short box if you have comics in this quantity. You buy long boxes. And how the fuck is a perfect rectangular plastic bin long box somehow take not a space saver compared to a giant tote that, by the way, these totes are smaller in the bottom and they get wider as they go to the top. So you're not going to stack them into perfect squares. There's just going to be all this space in the bottom where the totes don't meet.
He could have had perfectly acceptable space saving storage by spending a couple of $100 at Lowe's, getting some plywood and some brackets, and creating his own shelving system.
Correct.
Whereby
that's kind of asking a lot. He could have just put them in proper boxes, guys. Like that.
I'm saying he could have literally put them in long boxes, and instead of stacking the long boxes on top of each other, just could have created, like a bookcase cabinet kind
long
of thing
boxes on top of each other.
You can. There's no reason why you can't stack.
Yeah, why would you complicate it? Just put them on top of each other and call it a day. Put them on the shelves.
The ones I linked them, you can link them. The ones I sent them in the link, and the ones that he tried to pretend that he was showing. Again, he's showing the short box version, not the long box version. But the ones I sent them, you can stack them. I think 3 to 4 high. And that's how they tell you that they stack.
Yeah, you could stack those boxes 4 high, and you could create your. You could just use freaking plywood. You could change the levels of the shelves. I think
Shifter. Yeah, you can change the level of the shelf. Anyways, Shifter says he could have just put them in hefty bags, and he might as well.
Right.
He might as well have. That's hilarious, by the way.
Just put them in hefty bags. But look at this. Like, you can, in other videos, or even maybe this one, you can see how high the shelf is. You could have definitely stacked 2 to 3 long boxes right on top of each other, and then just made a neat row of long boxes going all the way to the end of the shelf, and and then each row of shelves would be rows of 2 stacked one on top of each other. They would be stacked vertically, like they're supposed to once they're bagged and boarded, and they would be neatly. There would be no room or space for anything else. It would be space saving. But again, these comic book storage boxes, I think they're like $90 for a pair. So, it would have been more costly than, $13.99 totes from Home Depot, sure.
Yeah, they store 300 books.
Right.
Alright,
You
let's
could have
watch.
you could have done this.
I mean, at least, well, they are 96-page graphic novels. So
but-
we say 200, but each one of those long boxes could have stored maybe 200 books. They'd be safe. They wouldn't get squished. That's as many as he's got in one of those freaking
Right.
totes.
Let's say
right?
200,
and it would have been more safe space. 200
per long box. Two
You
long
don't know what you're
boxes on top
talking
of each other.
about,
That's
crack
400.
smokers. You
So-
just don't
so-
know. He's a genius, and this is the future of indie comics. Okay, let's listen to this fucking
Yeah, let's
genius.
finish and then we'll talk.
was
some
really for anything other than definitely the long boxes, other than books. That's it. We need
Right.
these totes for multiple
That's what-
things. We're not going to be here all
Jesus
the time, but we
Christ.
will never run out of reasons and things and usage for a tote like
Pause
this.
it for
A
just a
long
second.
box, I know you can stack.
I mean,
Correct.
He is never his product is comic books. He is never gonna run out of a need for long boxes to store those comic books in.
Why
Like
would I
proper
buy?
storage. Like
Why
it
would I
makes
buy proper storage that
absolutely
can
no
only?
sense.
Why would I buy proper storage that can only hold books?
When that's
because
what
your
you're selling
comic-
and storing.
Correct. Just the same way that you buy a bunch of poster rolls that I see behind you
What I
because
don't
you have
understand is
posters. You're not going to
nobody-
shove a bunch of posters in a tote.
well, nobody's telling him that he can't have totes at his warehouse.
No.
Correct.
Yeah, you might
Use 'em for
find a reason
shirts.
to use these properly and for the right things that won't be damaged in them.
Use them for the shirts, man. Stack them in there, folded.
Yeah.
Nobody expects a shirt to arrive on the other end perfectly pressed. Use them for the shirts. You can fit as many as you can in a tote. You can use them for any other type of merchandise. But
Yeah, you can even label them by
But
the size of the
that's-
shirt.
Wow,
like-
which is
So-
an incredibly awesome.
You know, so it's organized. That's a free tip, motherfucker.
I mean, he just
Lester
precisely
Dog-
said it. Why would I buy these things that can only hold comic books? Because you're fucking selling comic books, and that's what we're concerned about, and that's what you're getting criticized because you're storing the comic books in a shitty way. I didn't comment about the posters, even though you were doing a shit job with that. But I was valid in commenting how you're storing comic books in totes that aren't made for comic books.
Yeah. Luster Dog says, next Eric July video. You idiots. I already have the hefty bags full of comics. Iggy Mars, I'm pretty sure, is
Is
Spirit
not
Scar.
Iggy. Yeah. That's not Iggy Mars.
I think that's Spirit Scar with his love
Oh,
of Vicky's
Jesus.
feet. And then Jeffrey Brown says, I have a question. Why do so many of these YouTube grifters have these dusty homeless beards? That's I don't know. That's a good question. Eric
mean,
Thomas
He has a face for radio.
Thomas says Eric knows that his only real selling point is internet drama, so he has to constantly respond to everything, even if it
Bingo.
doesn't tag or mention him by name.
Correct. Same way that the last time I had a spat with EVS is because he name searched himself. And it ended up with him getting mad and blocking me when I told him, he should leave me alone the same way his wife left him.
Ouch. That's
Yeah.
hurt. That's hilarious. That is
Well,
funny.
I mean, the whole thing began because I was criticizing the way that his action figures looked and how just shoddily made, and how he's basically he's so desperate to be Todd. He wants to be Todd McFarlane so bad, and he just doesn't have the skills or ability to be Todd McFarlane, both
Let's-
artistically and business wise.
Let's
and
focus
even
on
just-
one grifter at a time,
Oh,
okay?
sorry. I'm moving on. Sorry.
Iggy Mars says, no, I'm the real Iggy Mars, and I want to lick Vicky's feet. So,
Wow. You
and
got
I think
two
that is the
suitors.
real one, by the way.
You have two
So,
suitors, Vicky.
Yeah. Gross.
they're both Spirit Scar.
Okay,
Like
let's finish
6 of
this.
them on top of each other, but in terms of moving them around, labor, you realize that really quick when you're running a business and how much time is wasted, and time is money. These are stationary. They're not going to get damaged, and they're for the most
just
part
moved them.
stationary. We move them maybe 3 feet to the desk. They get to work.
They're not stationary,
going
you
to
move
be
them 3
damaged.
feet.
They're going to be fine. The only way these could even get damaged is if we were juggling them or something like that. And
Oh
by the
my
way,
God.
Or stacking
when you
them
get your books,
improperly.
if you
Like,
are
just-
a person,
it's just okay. I'm sorry. This is the last time we're gonna pause. But like just stacking them improperly, which they were. Like we saw it. The gravity, just like gravity, bro. Gravity over time bends things that have like.
And it doesn't take long. These are books and paper.
Yeah, they're paper, bro. Like, what are you doing, man?
The boards in the bags and boards is the thinnest cardboard possible. That's not sturdy. Like it's not going to keep it. All right, let's finish the video
or
because we're
a company that's handling your own stuff. You get a print company, they send you your books. They don't send them bagged and boarded. They don't send them in long boxes. They just send them in regular boxes without the bags and board. So how do you think that you get them? Either way.
Oh, we're going to answer that in a
Totes.
second.
You find they are your best friend, and it makes
You're a cheap
all the
ass.
sense in the world. We have our signed
Oh my
copies
God,
right
look at
here
those books.
to put them in totes so we can move them when we need to put them in mailers, which is like immediately. Now,
Not immediately.
when I, of course, have, I don't know,
Apparently
ship
not
books out.
immediately, because they're not going out.
And okay.
Yeah, that is
Rewind a half second when he shows the tote. When he shows go back right there. Look. The books are already falling into the center, into each other.
Oh no!
The books on the outside are because it's
you see
open in
that
the
it's
middle.
like the leaning tower of
God
shit. It's the leaning tower of shit.
So the ones on the upper right are perfectly stacked up. The ones next to it are kind of perfectly stacked. The ones next to it maybe they're leaning to towards us. But that one stack right there, the one that he's touching right now, that's all leaning towards the center and all jacked. That entire row is probably bent and will be bent when they send it out and will be damaged.
Well,
once they move them 3 feet to go put them in mailers or to look at them or whatever it is that they do every time they move them 3 feet, they're going to shift and move around. Nobody said that you have to juggle them. That's what this dummy doesn't get. You don't have to juggle them around or kick them. Just normal movement will
not even just movement, just
and
gravity
you don't have
over
anything around
time.
them
Like that's
in the
that's
comp-
literally just how gravity works.
That
I work
too.
in a warehouse. Boxes all the time, if they're not stacked right, like because we'll stack boxes on top of each other, the same boxes with the same product inside. If they're not stacked right, gravity will start to bend the boxes underneath the box before it. Like it doesn't get better with comics. Like it.
But this is a perfect example. This is why I wanted you to go back to this. You can literally see it. He's trying to tell us that he knows better and that he's taking better care of it. And then he shows us his hand in one of his totes, and it's literally a giant stack of books all falling into the center of the tote.
That's what I'm saying. Like every time he has to respond, he's like, "Oh yeah, gotta own these guys," and then it takes about 5 seconds into the video before he shows how inept he is.
In the compilation.
I'm sorry, let me just read this comment. Alfonso Prouty says, "Why use totes if they go into mailers immediately?"
Because they're not going into mailers.
Yeah, because they're not going into mailers immediately. They could.
They could.
That's the way you should do it. You should get them and then put them in mailers and send them out right away. But the thing about Eric July is that he basically said he bought all the product ahead of time and then basically sat on the product until he pre-sold it, and then he decided to select a date when he was gonna ship it. Well, I'm even giving him the leeway of his narrative. By his own narrative, he had this product already in hand, waited until an arbitrary date that he selected, late August, early September, whatever he moved it to now. But until then, it's all just sitting in a warehouse being manhandled and fucked around with, like he's doing in this video. If he was smart, as soon as he got these products, bagged, boarded, mail them, and start mailing them out. Especially if you've already sold the books because it was such an outstanding success and you got the money and you got a portion of your money, you could have already started sending out books as soon as you got them. You know how great it would be if some of his customers got their books and they were in mint condition, how much they'd be posting online. I got my ISO #1. I love it. It would be great.
Total, if the books are good, right? And if you have actual confidence in what you've put between those pages, right?
Mhm.
Then you send them out as soon as you can, because the more people talking about how great your fucking book is, the more sales you're going to get, considering
Correct.
you only have a short sales window. Now, he didn't actually get any books until almost 3 weeks after he opened the sale. We did a video, we talked about it on stream when he got them.
Right.
So he had ordered the cover A and cover B. I think
So he ordered the product. He
3,000
never had it on hand, which again, what's the
3,000
reason
of one,
PayPal
7,000
wouldn't
of
work with him?
another. That is what part of the reason why PayPal, put the kibosh
Mhm.
on giving him, which he says has nothing to do with it. But of course it does, because he told PayPal it was a pre-order. And PayPal's like, well, pre-orders, you get paid when you fucking ship them. And
Well, when
then
you show that you have the product on hand and you intend to ship it
and
at the
you
exact day that you
that you say
pre-sold
that
them.
you're going to ship it. Well, that date has already changed 3 times. Hey,
Right.
Risey. So, yeah. So, I mean, this whole thing is just sort of nuts, right? You want to get that shit out of your out of your warehouse, so it's not taking up room. 2, because the best advertisement is people having your product in their hands and bragging about it on Twitter.
Yep.
Right?
I mean,
The
Bragging
less
about it to their friends, showing their friends, everybody, then you get more customers. It
I mean,
just
he's
doesn't.
allowed to make really dumb decisions.
Yeah, he can make dumb decisions
sure.
all he wants.
I mean,
I
and
just
he
don't
does. He
see-
makes plenty. It's very clear.
Yeah, I just
but
don't see the point.
it doesn't mean that like we're not gonna like.
mock
Mock
his bad decisions and
Yeah.
call him out as bad decisions.
Yeah, it's not like we're not going to point him out and offer our own opinions about it.
Honestly,
But
if
like,
he-
I mean,
if-
like if he
But
doesn't
he
want
expects
to
us not to.
send his books out, like, I mean, that's on him. It is fucked up that like he told people you're not gonna wait, and then he's put it off like 3 times now.
Yeah, he's already changed the date twice.
But his fans don't seem to mind because they are also pretty much just as dumb as he is.
yeah, and I mean,
So
I know he's not going to listen to anybody like
he's a
us because
libertarian.
yeah, he is a libertarian.
I actually had somebody on Twitter tell me that I hate Eric July because of his politics. And I replied, I laugh at Eric July because of his politics.
No one.
Like,
that's the
I don't
thing. Like
care what his politics are.
he keeps mentioning the politics and keeps mentioning that nobody's criticized his politics yet in any of this. None of this has been about the politics. And I know he doesn't like hearing the hard truth, but if he like even took 1 second to look at the criticism and actually look at what is being pointed out, he would realize the mistake and he could just silently fix it and never tell anybody ever again, just for his customers' sake. But
I do
instead,
want to.
he has to keep showing off how little he knows in performative videos.
So I just blocked somebody from the chat. One thing I want to say is that like this really isn't like a place for like racist remarks. Like even though I think Eric July 100% plays the race card in places that really just
Doesn't
aren't
belong.
applicable, you don't go and like say racist shit in the chat because we're criticizing him. That's like fuck you for doing that shit. So
Yeah.
anyways,
That's not cool
yeah, it's
at
not.
all. And we were not going to stand for that, and that's why you got immediately banned.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't allow that in our chat.
No.
A little
anyways.
ribbing is one thing.
But not like first
Making
of all,
fun of libertarians, we will do all day,
Of
every
course.
day. Thank you, Colonel Morg. Hi.
Exactly.
But yeah.
We'll make fun of your shitty way of taking care of books. You will mock the fact. I mean, the funny thing is we're mocking him being a libertarian now, but none of the criticisms that have been made in the the videos had anything to do with his politics or his race. His defenders tried to bring it up several times. Even his little warehouse manager tried to use a turn of phrase and pretend it was a racial thing until he got called out for trying to play it, and then all of a sudden reverse course fast. But That's not how we do things. If we're going to criticize you, we're going to criticize you for the valid things, which is in this case your
He is
shitty handling
stupid.
of books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think
Wait. Let me just
go ahead.
let's
Copies
finish
right
it, and
here
then I think
to put them
we're
in
pretty much
totes,
done, right? Yeah.
so we can move them when we need to put them in mailers, which is like immediately. Now, when I of course have, I don't know, $1 million warehouse, we can stack them as high as we need to for books that aren't going to be used immediately. Maybe you put them in a back on a long box on a shelf, but that's not how our business runs, and it certainly ain't how it runs right now.
No, no shit.
These things are not going to be in.
I mean, yeah, it runs like shit. You've like
It
made
runs
that
like
very
You
shit
have
right now.
clear.
already made that
That's-
clear that
That's
Very
pretty
clear.
much it. Like, yeah, it doesn't run properly. We get it, man.
they're not going
like-
into mailers immediately. It's going to take him all of those orders unless he goes out tomorrow by the end of this week and hires at least a dozen people.
Going to
Those
different post
books-
offices.
Oh no, the post office will come pick your shit up.
Oh.
But I'm talking about actually, finishing up the fulfillment
Oh,
in his
Jesus.
warehouse. He's going to need at least a dozen people in order to get any of this shit out before the end of fucking September. Like
He's a failed
if
musician too. Sorry.
He
he is in a band.
He is in a band. I'm not sure.
Right.
I've never like I'm familiar with his politics. I think everybody is familiar with.
I know he's
stupid
in
politics.
a band. Yeah, I don't.
But like
Okay.
I'm not familiar with his music, but if it's anything like his business decisions or his beard choice or his
Yeah.
politics, it's
So
it's bad.
so
It's very bad.
I mean,
now
his music is so great. Nobody's heard of it until now.
yeah. So we get to touch a little bit on how these books are going to be going out. Now, he says that he needs to move the books over to the tables, and the question is, why aren't the tables mobile and why are the books not being stored in a place where the tables can be moved to them? I mean, it's not that revolutionary an idea that you have a mobile workstation. You can get big, huge sorting tables on wheels from Uline, the same company he claims, that he's ordering the rest of his products from, and just and actually have it set up so there is storage and workspace next to each other. I mean, it that makes no sense, but
Keep all his music equipment in totes.
he probably does, and I wouldn't.
He
And
probably
that's
does, and that's a proper
actually
use of totes.
what you're supposed to use the fucking totes for.
Yeah.
Right?
That's what the totes are for.
Yes. So
but yeah, like I mean, even when he's signing the books, when he signed the books, he had like a foldable card table. Move the table next to the totes, not the totes to the table.
not
like-
because to the table. And the thing is those folding card tables aren't exactly like made for lots of weight for long periods of time. So you can't exactly stack a whole bunch of stuff on those tables. It's very inefficient.
Yeah.
But he did tweet this out. Some noob weirdo yesterday insisted that we shouldn't have to bag and board our shipments because of how the book is built, because it's a sturdy book with high quality covers and stuff. I mean, it does look pretty sturdy. We sent some I think he meant test shipments to our employees, and they must have been playing kickball with the package, and that's why we bag and board. Okay, I'm going to say two things here. One, bagging and boarding is not going to protect your book from any damage done by the post office, by FedEx, or by UPS. If your postman decides to fold your mailer in half to shove it in your mailbox, a bag and a board isn't going to do you any good. None. If it falls off the loading dock and a little mail jeep runs over it, the bag and the board isn't going to do shit.
No, Vicky, you're so dumb. It's in a plastic sleeve. Of course it's going to help.
Right.
This-
What are you fucking talking about?
Now, what I also
This
like...
test shipment right here If this is bagged and boarded, it would look exactly like this.
Yeah,
Right.
of course it would.
Now, what I want to
It's about
point-
as protected regardless. Like,
in the video that I played at the beginning, he talked about making sure things got out in the best possible way. On Twitter, he keeps talking about, quote, sturdy mailers without naming the mailers. This is not a Gemini. A Gemini mailer is the top end best mailer you can get for comic books. They cost less when you buy them wholesale. They will cost you anywhere, depending on the amount that you are purchasing, anywhere from 15 to 25 cents each. The larger the quantity, the lower the price. This is not a Gemini mailer. This is not the Cadillac of mailers that you can be sending books in. I could be completely and totally wrong, but I asked quite a few people who know what a Gemini looks like, both before it's shipped, after it's been beat all to shit, and this isn't one.
well, I mean, okay, so somebody's saying not true. You can get better mailers. Regardless, it would be a better
As far
choice.
the
hands
best
down.
the best choice would actually be a box with bubble wrap, like Iconic Comics does. They actually use they get boxes from that are the same size, and just like the boxes from Uline, once again, and they ship them out in a box.
That's how I got a comic book recently from England, and it was in a bag and board, in a box, surrounded by bubble wrap. Not a single way that book could have ever moved in any way. And the box went ahead and it also included the little pins and all the other stuff as well, packaged separately. And again, bubble wrap so that pins and none of these other items would damage the book.
Those one box.
If this is
one
your
box
mailer,
and
this is your if this is not a Gemini mailer or that you're going to use, and this is your test, then you're already testing your shipping method not with the mailer you're going to use. Which again is anybody
you're either going to use a better
practice
mailer.
how you play. If you're going to ship something with Gemini mailer, if you're going to do test shipments, you send it in Gemini mailers. You don't send it in some cheap
He's
ass
never
shit that's not Gemini.
He's never mentioned what kind of what brand of mailer that he is using.
I guess we'll find out when people actually get their books.
Yeah. Whatever it is, if this is how it came back to you from your test shipment, send them all back and buy new fucking mailers.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, honestly, there's you don't have much else of a choice, because this whatever you have is not sufficient. If you only sent out a few and one came back looking like that, that's an issue, right? I mean, unless you have like the worst post office on the entire fucking planet, which is highly doubtful.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, and again, a bag and board is not a force field. It would have done nothing to save this book.
Yeah.
Just like it does nothing to protect the book in the tote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
do we have the pictures of how the books actually would have looked like when they arrived to him, like from an actual distributor that's actually knows what they're doing?
Not really. They're in the video that he replied to me. We can get like sort of a shot of what the box look like, but not.
Oh, okay.
Really.
I had sent you the pictures from Diamond.
Oh yeah. That I've got. Hold on.
Okay, because if you're, Diamond is the up until recently, until the pandemic happened, Diamond was the distributor. So if you were distributing comic books, more than likely, unless you were, crowdfunding, that's who you were distributing with. And the way they send the books out to you are not the way that Eric July describes it. And again, even if he picked the cheapest printer in the world, that's not how they sent it to him. And look at that.
See, with these books, right? So you've got the boxes here. So Those are the 60 volume boxes that he's talking about. These are the mini boxes inside the big box.
And
Like,
all the comic books are stacked in each one of those mini boxes inside of the big box. And because of the mini boxes, and because even the way the mini boxes are inside the big box, there's no room for them to move or shift. Those books couldn't move or shift if God Himself did anything. The only thing that could happen is if somebody legitimately kicked the box or like a forklift drove into it, then of course it would damage the entire box. So that shipment would be damaged, but it would look like this. And see how these are stacked? This is probably like thousands of comic books right there and stacked evenly, and the weight distributed evenly so they don't get damaged when they get from
Yeah,
point
it's all
A to
about
B,
even weight distribution. Like that's just
which you're not going to get in a tote. And it seems repetitive that we keep saying this, but apparently we have to keep repeating it for Eric because he doesn't listen, and he didn't listen all yesterday. And I doubt that if he watched this video, he's listened for an entire hour and 50 minutes about it. He's just going to keep ignoring it and do performative videos for idiots who don't know any better.
yeah.
And
Unfortunately.
unfortunately for his fans. I mean, again,
It is. It's unfortunate
it's no
for the
skin
people buying the book.
off my it's
right?
no skin off my
I
back.
mean,
But
nobody bought the book because they're like
Because they think the
fans
book is
of
good.
like comics. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm sure fans of comics bought the book, right? But nobody
Mhm.
bought it
solely on
based
being
off
fans.
like the merit of it's an awesome book. So I don't
Nobody
think
knows
they're gonna
anything about his book.
care.
Everyone who knows anything about Isom as a character or the story of the book is the most bare minimum possible. So nobody bought it on the merits of the story and the characters. At this point, all you've got is Eric July, and you're buying him because of Eric July. And that's great that he sold $3.3 million off of his, bit of fame being the Blaze contributor and being a YouTuber and all that. But if you want to be long term in comic books and you want to treat your customers right in the comic book business, this is not how you're doing it, and you're certainly not selling your books on merit.
Shifter in the comments says that those diamond boxes are repacks. Yes, they are. We're not saying that this is exactly how the printer
No,
is how they come straight from the printer. We're just using it as an example of that's pretty much what it looks like, how the boxes are. Boxes
unfortunately,
and
unless we get
boxes.
Eric July to get triggered enough to do a legit video where he shows us an unboxing of
Yeah,
his
that
books and like exactly how it looks the minute that it arrives to him, like unboxed, and the way that they're stacked in the box itself, so you can see that there's no room between and around them. We're not going to truly know. We can only speculate on the little bits that he gave us, just like we know that those books and the totes are fucked because we can see it because he provided that.
yeah.
Yeah, those poor books and those poor stupid people that bought his stupid book.
And that's something else that annoys me, which is any criticism of him and his business personally, it's a criticism of his customers. And anytime that anything happens, you're insulting his customers, not Eric July, not his business practices. You're insulting his customers because you're criticizing him personally or the way he's doing things. And then he's always like, "We will win."
When
Last time I checked, Eric July is not cutting any of you people any of that 3.3 million.
Yeah,
He won. You got a book. You got a product. You
that's
won. You
probably
didn't even
pretty
win.
damaged.
You technically made
Right.
a purchase. That's not a win. That's a purchase. When I buy
Yeah,
something
you
from
lost
Amazon,
money on your terrible purchase.
correct. If I buy something from Amazon, I didn't. If I buy a trade paperback from Amazon, Amazon didn't give me shit. I bought it and I own it with my own money. So we is nothing. He likes to use the group, and he likes to use the we as together to A, deflect any criticism, and B, to make people feel like his personal
Yeah,
victory or his
it
personal
helps build that
enrichment,
parasocial
yeah,
relationship.
if
Yeah.
his personal enrichment somehow affects you. And there's that saying, there's that Jay-Z saying, what I eat doesn't make you shit. Eric July having steaks is not going to make the hot dog on your plate look any better, buddies. So
Yeah.
if you don't get it that this is all for his benefit and all for his, bottom line, and he just doesn't give a shit about the product he's sending you, then you know what? Keep supporting him. I mean, we've been criticized Ethan Van Sciver and other people doing it, and they've continued to support him, even though those numbers slowly dwindled over time. It's not going to surprise me if Eric July, the same thing. Huge sales first book. Let's see what happens in book 2, book 3, and let's see how it goes down.
I hope. I
down
mean,
the
like,
line.
here's the thing: is like, I don't hope that he makes less money. Like, I actually do want people.
I just think if he's
no,
gonna,
no, no. I'm not saying that you are. I'm just like, I don't want him to not succeed. Because I want
Right.
everybody to succeed, even if I
Sure.
think they're incredibly stupid, they're a grifter. I do want people generally to succeed.
Sure.
But based off of pretty much everything ever that he's shown us, as well as like what we've seen out of like, comicsgate, which he's not comicsgate, but he definitely
He plays by the same
isn't
rules.
very different. It's just a matter of time until he doesn't
This is
beat
this is
the
the
big
no,
two.
this is a new venture, a character sight unseen, number one issue of a comic book. This is the reason that even the big two constantly keep reverting back to issue number one, because they know the number one issue always sells more than number 2
Yeah,
and number 3 and all
course.
that. That's why back in the day, people used to go ahead and put books in their pull list because the number 2 issue was always worth more than the number 1, because everyone bought number 1 and then people would drop off on number 2. So
Yeah.
just statistically, he's not, the chances are he's not going to sell more in his second book than the first one. But if he continues these business practices and keeps treating the books the way he is doing right now, I can guarantee you that book 3 and 4 are not going to make as much, because when people receive the product or read the storyline, if he, did all this marketing based on, grievances against other companies and what's in between the pages sucks, people are not going to come back. They're just not going to buy the book. And that's not wishing him ill. It's just when the rubber meets the road and people actually get the product in their hands, then we'll know what your true success is. And we'll know during your next sales and who comes back and, continues being a buyer. You can do great the initial time. Ethan sold a shit ton of Blood Honey, and then Wreck Planet had to go through multiple campaigns for him just to get to similar numbers. It's a normal thing. People drop off, and even with his number.
Well, no,
2,
Ethan
because
actually
it's
did
taken so
make
long
more
and-
money on Wreck Planet than he did on Blood Honey, but he had to do it in such a way by doing like this executive box $200 tier thing that
Sure.
totally skewed.
But
that
it's a
number.
gimmick. It's a gimmick thing.
It was a gimmick sale, not necessarily
Right.
Well,
Well, the point is
how many
but
backers.
even but same as I'm saying about Eric July, if you look at his Indiegogo and you read through the people who bought the book, the people that are unsatisfied, they're not coming back after this. And this is what's going to happen when people get their books. And it's not wishing ill will. It's just, if this is how your books are being treated, their customers are not going to receive a good product and they're not going to come back. And that's not wishing you ill. It's just stating a fact.
You're not a comic book creator until your book is printed and in your customers' hands.
Correct.
And you're not winning at a business until you've been at it for a bit. Your first book is really nothing. Your second product, your third product, everything else down the line, because your
He's a
business.
musician. He
you can
understands
come out
there's one-hit wonders.
Yeah, you can come out gangbusters, and then end up with nothing 2 or 3 years from now. Like
Every medium is littered with one-hit wonders, be it music, TV, comic books. He should understand this as someone who's been in media of different sorts, including a fledgling music career. Apparently, anybody can get a one-hit wonder. It's, can you do a sophomore album? Can you succeed after that? That's going to be the true test of success and longevity. And if this is any indication how you're treating your first go around, doesn't look like it to me. We'll see what happens in the end.
Like, what I don't understand is that it's like the criticisms are just like, they're good criticisms, and just listening to them would really benefit your company, and he's just like,
He can't take
like
any
listening to
criticism.
advice is soy.
He can't take criticism. Today he did a video where, and apparently in the video that he is, I get to make a cameo because he's criticizing Mark Brooks because Mark Brooks basically said, the writing is probably vapid. Now he did say, well, nobody's read the book. That's fair to say, Eric. Then again, nobody's read the book, so nobody can also say that it's a great book because nobody's fucking had it in their hands. So, all these people that keep screaming about how great your work is when they haven't actually read it, are just, gassing up your head. But Mark Brooks then said the art looks subpar and, pedestrian and something like that. And he did an entire video basically saying that Mark personally insulted his artist and how dare he, and he's not going to take these personal insults to his artist, or don't come insulting my artist and flexing and all this.
And we can say his
Mark,
name. Gabe El
Mark,
Taib. Gabe, who went after Mark at San Diego Comic Con.
Well, he didn't. Yeah, he criticized the colors a little bit, but he
didn't. Mark didn't call him by name.
But he took more issue with Mark Brooks insulting the actual art because he got his main defense was about his penciler because his penciler is not in Twitter and he's not involved in any of this. So how dare you insult him or attack him? He didn't. He criticized his art because he's an artist.
He's not on Twitter anyways, and he's not a part of this. That doesn't mean that you can't criticize.
Correct.
He said the story.
He's not on Twitter like us. So how dare you criticize him? He doesn't.
Because the way Eric looks at it is it's fair. The way he looks at it is fair game. Gabe did the stalking shit at San Diego Comic Con, and he did all these weirdo shit. So he can understand why Mark would have an issue with Gabe because he personally would have an issue, but he can't understand why you would have a personal issue. That's exactly my point, that he's making it seem like a personal issue and lying to his audience, even though people can read the screenshot or even go to Twitter.
Audiences are generally too dumb to read what's on the screen.
Yeah.
No, I know, but so did Tug on Renfamous, and I was a Tug fan, and I was like, yeah, Renfamous totally went after his kid.
But it's
I mean, it's generally the audience will even if you show it, and I mean, I'm saying this having been on the receiving end, and I was like, yeah, fuck that bitch. You know what I mean?
And then
that's you're gonna because you don't even think about it. You're like, oh, the tweet's there. He's showing it. Obviously, he's showing the proof. Therefore, what he's saying must be right. And that's
even though he knows his audience is not going to legitimately look at it and scrutinize it. And that's what makes Eric July also this bad faith actor, because he's sending people by doing this video. He's basically going to send people to attack Mark Brooks. When he criticized as an artist, he criticized another artist's art. If I draw something and Mark Brooks tells me my art is pedestrian, A, it probably is because I haven't drawn in years. But B, I'm going to take his criticism a little bit more to heart because he's actually a pro and he's criticizing me legitimately with his eyes as a professional that works in the business. If you're getting mad, you're just getting mad because one of his actual peers in the business is actually pointing out that the art is basically, pretty bland and subpar, which even in the B cover that he keeps showing up, it kind of is. I'm sorry. I'm glad again that you made 3.3 million. Your fans are going to keep gassing up and telling you how awesome you are. But Isom and those covers look like the generic shit that you would see in a movie when they can't get the licensing rights for DC or Marvel comics and they have to create a fake
I
comic.
do think it does look a little bit generic, personally.
It does.
And I don't.
Yeah, but that's all.
But that's subjective.
That's a personal, subjective taste.
But again, subjective and subjective critique of art is not a personal attack. And for you to sit there in a video, to create a YouTube video, to get your audience to basically attack and to lie to your audience to say it is a personal attack is disingenuous and fucked up. And that is basically why people disagree with the way he sells and markets his books, because this is the way he does it. He can't just be proud of their work. He has to also make this into a personal attack against him, his fans, or anybody when anybody criticizes him, on whether it's legit criticism like the tote thing or whether it's a subjective criticism, which again is just a critique of the art. It's not a personal thing. Mark Brooks never mentioned anybody personally. So, you know, I don't get it. But again, this is how, like you guys said earlier, it's a parasocial thing. He does this thing where he makes any attack or any criticism seem like a personal attack, not just for him, not just for his artist, but for his audience. So they can all be invested in this personally. But at the end of the day, the only one making money and only one actually winning or profiting is Eric July off of playing everyone for drama just to sell books.
Yeah, and I think we're pretty much right at the end, but I do
Yeah.
want to point out this. Oh, hey, Twitless.
Hey, Twitless.
Yeah, that's cool to see Twitless.
I mean,
but Larry Romano says Ethan talks about some unwritten code that artists don't criticize each other. True or not?
I'm not a pro
No.
artist, so
I don't think
I mean,
so.
I've
think so.
I've seen other pros criticize. They usually try to do a constructive criticism. It's kind of bad form to criticize another comic book artist by doing the thing of like, let me fix your art unsolicited, or let me point out all the errors. No, you could say how you would do things differently, or you can, say, there's a way to do it without being an asshole to a
Yeah,
fellow artist.
I have a criticism of Gabe El Tayeb as a non-artist. I don't think I am not going to give the time of day to any man who was willing to violate an NDA just so he could gossip with Ethan. And
Which got him
and-
quit fired.
which
Well,
got
other people fired too.
it got other people taken off the book. I don't care that Gabe just, they decided to take Gabe off the book and they decided to not renew his contract or fired him or however that all ended
Whatever
up.
way he wants to spin it, that
However anybody wants to spin it. But other people were taken off of that book because they didn't know who was leaking.
right.
And
And
I
instead of manning up and admitting it, so he could,
Right.
he could protect. His,
I find
his
the
friends.
fact that he cost other people money that they were depending on to be loathsome. I don't care.
To leak story details to Ethan just
See-
for what? So Ethan could make a shitty ass video for his profit. Like, you get nothing out of this. Why?
Yeah.
Well, he got fired and he got other people fired. That's what he got out.
He got
Win,
fired. and then he-
play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Well,
But
no,
I do
because he
want.
did that so he could then get publicity and grift and show up on Fox News with Brian Kilmeade and talk about how he got fired for his politics and because he disagreed with.
And he quit because Superman was gay, blah blah.
even
blah.
though he worked on the book and colored that issue, so you knew they were going to kiss way in advance when you colored that issue, because
because Ethan started talking about it months in advance.
so you knew it was happening and you stayed in the job the entire time. You only quit right before the book was going to come out, and DC Comics, to their benefit, kind of gave you the finger, to show you off by getting a new colorist to recolor your entire book, and then it sold, multiple runs.
So whatchamacallit, I do want to I mean, I don't have an answer because I didn't have this criticism, but Twitless says I don't get the generic criticism. It's genre fiction specifically meant to supplant the inversion of the current industry's take on genre fiction. So I think that's for YouTube.
Yeah.
There are days when Twitless talks in code.
No, well, he's saying he doesn't
Sorry,
understand the
I'm just getting
criticism
tired.
of
Calling something generic?
or why it's bad to be generic. I think is when it's genre fiction
when
that's
it's
meant
genre-
to look.
I think because it's
like
not
that's the
meant to look
genre
generic.
is kind
it's
of generic.
mainly because in the 70s and the 80s, artists would do like a character Bible, and artists had to work hard to be on model when they drew the comic books. So every artist, for the most part, except for certain exceptions, like in DC Comics, had to draw like Jorge Luis Garcia Lopez because he drew the characters. That's why his work is what you see whenever you buy T-shirts of like vintage Superman, Batman. It's his art always that gets used because they're using that art he drew for the character models. So everyone tried to work on it. Over the years, people have put their stamps in their art and tried to basically put show off. Todd McFarlane, Eric Larson, Rob Liefeld, even when he leaves feet off the drawings. Even Ethan Van Sciver himself has his flourishes and has his art style. If DC Comics wanted to have all their artists draw like Jorge Luis Garcia Lopez or George Lopez, they could mimic them. You see it all the time when they do tribute issues and they have to mimic the art for some type of flashback. But they don't, because you're supposed
I
to.
think
I
we're getting a little off track.
specifically
Okay,
talking
so
about your guys' criticism of
that
Eric
it looks
July's
generic.
art.
That,
It
that
just
the book
it,
looks
ju-
generic.
it
Okay,
just looks like it looks
you
like basically like you made a model and like
you
there's no
can
artistic
do
flourish.
you can do genre books without making them look like every other book in the genre, without
Correct.
making them look. I personally think that the characters look bland. There's
Yeah.
there's nothing that stands out and says, "Look at fucking me," right?
Yep.
I mean,
Look at Isom and look at
that's
the
my
artist style. Look at his
Yeah,
that's
that's
style.
because you guys are
my
racist.
personal
So
that's my personal opinion.
your
I don't think
racist
there's
opinion,
anything special
Sure.
in the
because he's
OC
black.
design. I mean, it all just sort of looks like every, like any
It looks
generic.
like Mr. Terrific, and that it's been pointed out to him because of
Yeah,
the way
there's
the
a difference
costumes are done.
between genre and generic,
Right.
as far as I'm concerned.
Which is why I kind of jokingly said this looks like when a movie has to have a comic book in it, but they can't get the rights to DC or Marvel, and somebody just kind of creates a generic version to kind of give you the impression of comic books without violating the rights of these companies, because you couldn't get the licensing. This is what it looks like, and that's why it seems generic.
Oh, like the Guardians of the Globe and Invincibles. How like
Well, that's a parody.
Yeah, I know, but like it's just like it is a parody.
I don't
but
think
yeah,
I don't think Eric July means for his book to be a parody. He certainly isn't selling it as this is a parody of X character or X,
Oh yeah,
comics.
I get
He
that.
legitimately means this to be a serious character and taken seriously. If it's a parody, then more power to him. But I don't think it is. That's not the way it's marketed.
Okay, guys, it has been like 2 hours.
It
is.
has. This has been fun.
It has been fun.
Been a long
I
time.
especially enjoyed the people seething in the chat that would show up every once in a while. That was funny.
That
I
was fun.
honestly, for once, I didn't have a second window to look at the chat. So whatever
You know,
popped
the
up
chat
just now is
pops
what I'm
up
seeing.
like on the
StreamYard.
StreamYards. Yeah, you just press on the comments.
No, I see. Oh yeah, I didn't want that distracting me. I wanted to be able to have a conversation. So,
Oh, okay.
But I have
No,
done it
that's
before.
actually,
just
I
didn't want
appreciate that.
distraction.
No,
Yeah,
that's
appreciate
because
great.
you start reading comments, you start laughing at something funny, or in the case of the person who said something racist, I would have been, upset and called them out immediately, and it would have been, distracting to do. So, but I'm glad that some people came in here angry, and I don't know, maybe this will trigger an Eric July video, and I don't care. At this point, this is I'm still going to criticize him if he does shit work, but I mean,
Yeah.
I don't have anything else to say on video performatively. This is about it.
Well, I'm surprised we didn't even talk about the PayPal stuff, but we ran out of time, guys.
Yeah, we ran out of time.
2 hours plus, we ran out of time though.
All right.
That's an hour longer than we usually stream. So I think
Not lately.
Jesus.
I mean,
not
it's
lately.
been-
We've had some longer streams lately.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a third
We did a
person on this stream, so
3-hour
maybe that's what
stream.
happened. You add
did
one
a
more guy, you add an hour.
Well, we did a 3-hour stream with Emmett Plant like 2 weeks ago.
About the Vic stuff.
And you did a super short stream with Mark Brooks. So, the length can vary. That's the
Yeah.
surprise about these videos. We
That's
can either have a
right.
3-hour stream or literally a 15-minute
You got to show up when they start. When they start late, or you never know what's going to happen.
Never know.
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
Thanks everybody for showing up. It was
I
nice
just want to say
you
thanks everybody for showing up. We had a good one. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, or seethe in the chat.
Yeah. And
like Zooey Grief.
for the 2 out of 3 of us there on Twitter, feel free to follow if you're a nice person. And if you're not, you're going to get blocked and banished.
And
But
then
you can feel
Seethe-
free. If you're cool, you can follow. It'd be nice.
in the chat. C.
See. Good night, Ricey.
C.